The Cuba Project. Subject: tasks assigned to CIA in General Lansdale's program review. A. Tasks. Part 5, Parts 5 to 8, of General Lansdale's program review of the Cuba Project, dated January 18, 1962, assigns 32 specific tasks to elements of the U.S. government. Of these, 16 are assigned to CIA solely or jointly. The tasks have been reviewed by this agency, and it has been determined that substantially all reporting and planning deadlines can be met. Work on all tasks, with and without assigned dates for completion, is in progress. The following detailed observations are keyed to General Lansdale's paper. 1. Task 1 Part 5 The intelligence community is hard at work on NI 85-62 and is attempting to meet the deadline of February 7. As was agreed in a conversation of January 23, 1962 with General Lansdale, a short extension may be necessary. 2. Task 2 Part 5 The Opelika Interrogation Center in Florida will be in operation on 15 February the deadline date. 3. Task 3 Part 5 The survey is in progress and will be completed on the stipulated date. On the basis of the information obtained, the possibility of establishing additional interrogation points will be determined. 4. Task 4, Part 5 An operational assessment of the stay behind net in Cuba will be completed and reported by the deadline of February 15. Because communication with singleton agents is by SW, not W/T, it is unlikely that assessment can be completed by the date stipulated. An extension to February 28 may be necessary. Although every effort is being made to complete the work before that date, an intensive program aimed at the acquisition of third country assets through the cooperation of liaison services is also underway, particularly in Spain, Belgium, France, Uruguay, and Costa Rica. A progress report on the status of this program will be made by February 15, although this agency cannot be sure that the cooperation of all intended participants will have been obtained by that date. CIA has also taken the following additional steps in respect to Task 4. A. A cable has been sent to field stations to give added impetus to the search for assets and the development of both unilateral and joint operations. Progress reports have been required by March 1. B. A survey of the Cuban Chinese community and of operational access to it is underway. Target date, end of February. C. An assessment of more than 100 persons to determine their suitability for return to Cuba as agents in the guise of students is also being conducted. Target date, end of February. 5. Task 5 Part 5 The February 1 deadline will be met, and by that date we shall also have begun the search for suitable intermediaries. Analysis to date has not uncovered a top-level official of the Cuban regime whose personal characteristics indicate he would accept recruitment or agree to defection now. Although some targets of opportunity will appear outside Cuba, most planning will necessarily be based upon an appeal made inside the island by intermediaries selected from the ranks of journalists, foreign officials, international businessmen, foreign lawyers, crime syndicates, international detectives and foreign police officials. Additionally, plans for the defection of lower-level Cuban officials abroad have been completed, and the search for targets and access abroad is underway. 6. Task 6 Part 5 By the assigned date we shall complete and submit a coordinated plan. We shall also have begun action on cover and deception operations by that date. 7. Task 7 Part 5 By February 1 CIA will submit an operational schedule for the initiation of an organized resistance movement inside Cuba. The schedule will include the localities selected and the assessment of some candidates. A full assessment will be completed in accordance with the schedule listed in Para 4, above, in conformance with Task 4. It should be noted, however, that this operational schedule, like the schedules called for in Tasks 10, 26, and 30, will necessarily be tentative and subject to later revision as the number of assets inside Cuba increases and as the flow of intelligence is augmented. Moreover, the development of a resistance movement will not remain controllable, so that operational timetables produced during the next 4 weeks can serve only as guides for a proposed sequence of actions. 8. Task 10 Part 5 CIA has on hand both propaganda and political action assets in the Caribbean area and elsewhere in Latin America. It is planned to use those assets both to support the project inside Cuba and to generate and mobilize public and official opinion against Castro outside Cuba. The operational schedule will be submitted on the stated date. 9. Task 18 Part 6 Discussions with the appropriate AFL-CIO officials have been conducted and a report of developments will be submitted by February 15. 10. Task 21 Part 7 Plans for inducing the failure of crops will be submitted by February 15. These plans will envisage both the use of controlled assets who can be infiltrated and exfiltrated and the provision of encouragement and guidance to the resistance, so that it will undertake acts of sabotage, some of which are to be directed against crops, particularly rice. 11. Task 24 Part 7. This deadline will also be met. Primary methods of disrupting the supply of Cuban nickel to the USSR could, if approved, include 1. The sinking of Cuban or block ships by open attack, 2. The use of frogman or UDT tactics in harbors for the same purpose, 3. The employment of torpedoes and mines toward this end, and 4. The sabotaging of primary or secondary sources of Cuban nickel, such as the Nicaro and Moa plants. CIA now has no proven internal assets capable of carrying out any of these actions. The agency does have external assets capable of undertaking actions 2 and 3. It also has an external group capable of undertaking 4. Upon the completion of specialized training, all studies including a plan for using overt or covered means to prevent reinstitution of the Canadian supply to the USSR, will be submitted CI by February 15. It is suggested that consideration be given to assigning to the Economic Action Group, chaired by the Department of State, responsibility for overt action designed to deny Canadian nickel to the USSR. 12. Task 26, p. 7. Together with Tasks 27 and 28, Task 26 constitutes an outline of a plan for a psychological warfare operation. These tasks are so closely interrelated that CIA proposes to submit by February 15 a single plan dealing with all three tasks. 13. Task 27, p. 7. See preceding paragraph. 14. Task 28, p. 7. See paragraph 12. 15. Task 30, p. 7. By February 15, CIA will submit an operational schedule dealing with the sabotage of 1. Shipping in Cuban waters and harbors, 2. Cuban transport facilities, 3. Communications facilities, 4. Equipment for the refining of petroleum, 5. Facilities for producing and distributing power, 6. Industry, 7. Food supplies, 8. Key military and police installations and materiel. The schedule will also include the disruption of military and police communications and harassment of military and police training and personnel. 16. Task 31 Part 8. This deadline will be met. B. Additional undertakings. The following comments are keyed to sections D through K. Part 6, Parts 3 and 4, of the Program Review. 17. Section D Part 3 6 men, to form the initial nucleus, have been assessed in depth. Further assessment of candidates inside and outside Cuba is in progress, and it is expected that 10 of these will be recruited by February. 18. Section E Part 3 to date 15 locations have been selected as suitable scent of resistance because of 1. The presence there of groups among which there is patent or incipient unrest, 2. The presence of strategic and tactical targets for use or deactivation, and 3. Proximity to potential unconventional warfare areas. In order of priority, the 15 centers are Havana, Camagüey, Santa Clara, Cienfuegos, Matanzas, Cardenas, Sancti Spiritus, the Escambray Mountains, Holguin, Santiago de Cuba, Ciego de Avila, Baracoa, Pina del Rio, Manzanillo, and Colon. 19. Section F Part 3 in support of states' efforts, CIA has conducted propaganda operations, including a number of mass demonstrations in Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Ecuador, Guatemala, Mexico, Panama, Peru, Uruguay, and Venezuela. 20. Section H Part 4 1 TV intrusion operation has been conducted, on January 16. Plans for an intrusion during the scheduled parade and demonstration in Havana are being formulated. 21. Section K Part 4 Groups with which CIA has exploitable access or entree include women, labor, students, teachers, jurists, and other professional classes. International contacts with labor organizations and members of the Catholic Church will also be utilized.
Operation Mongoose Progress. Memorandum for the Special Group Augmental. From Brigadier General Lansdale. Subject: Operation Mongoose Progress. Intelligence build-up by CIA includes efforts to recruit a Cuban diplomat in place and an official in an airline's office in Havana. The CIA team, placed in Pinar del Rio province last March, was successfully resupplied by maritime means on 24 May. The Navy and CIA have worked out a cooperative effort to strengthen the U.S. security and intelligence program at Guantanamo. The CSC continues to provide word from inside Cuba covering local security moves and popular unrest reportedly increasing. A substantial reduction in oil refining and manufacture of tires and tubes is reported from CSC sources. Economic pressure upon the communist regime may be increased by a Department of Commerce move denying bunkering facilities at U.S. ports to vessels under Sino-Soviet bloc charter carrying cargo to Cuba. State Department reports having solicited views of our ambassador to Japan regarding possible approaches to the Japanese, asking them to cease sugar purchases from Cuba. Propaganda efforts of USIA and CIA continue to apply pressure upon the Cuban regime by focusing upon abuses of power and failure of key programs such as medical and food. The VSA use of refugees in interviews especially underline this theme. I am looking into a USIA proposal that we counter communist Cuba moves to increase Latin America by participation in the athletic North Central American and Caribbean Games set for August 11th to 25 in Kingston, Jamaica. A free Cuba team might be effective with good publicity support. Incident at Guantanamo occurred May 26th when a light Cuban aircraft landed there. 3 Cubans had forced the pilot at pistol point to land them at our naval base. With state's concurrence, defense acted. The Cuban pilot flew home. The 3 Cuban escapees stayed on the base. Fracturing the Birim has been given priority attention by CIA. A senior case officer has been assigned full-time to this specific action and has preferential use of CIA assets. Of 24 desirable defection targets, CIA has found several who seem vulnerable, including the Minister of National Economy, Leon Bodie. Priority operations schedule of 21 days, seeking some positive actions in behalf of our project during the next several weeks. NAS brought a very healthy response from CIA and USIA. The CIA determination to meet the challenge has surfaced 4 policy-type questions, which I note for you on behalf of CIA. 1. Task 7, Voice of Free Cuba, is almost immediately feasible. If the group will approve CIA arranging with Navy for use of a submarine, CIA has firm plans for worrying the communist regime through broadcasts, which would appear to come from local dissident groups actively planning to harass the regime. 2. Task 19, CIA is prepared to disseminate leaflets on Castro's failure to the Cuban population by balloon with a view of increasing instability of the communist machine. The technique is tested and CIA has plans to operate iron as surface chip in international waters. The group I see asked to approve the idea, including Navy support. This could be operating in time to exploit the July 26th anniversary of Castro's attack upon government forces at Santiago de Cuba in 1933, for the revolution he has now betrayed. 3. Task is, CIA believes it can recruit some 21-man teams for possible use in beating up resistance groups within Cuba. Crew's approval is asked for defense support in training, holding, logistics. The noise level hazard is noted, but this special project could be almost unnoticed if tied with proposed U.S. military enlistment of Cubans. Task 23, Counterfeit currency to increase Cuban economic problems, is considered feasible within 3 to 6 days upon a limited basis and in considerable scale within 6 months. CIA asks the group approval before proceeding with this action. Other tasks. I note here that CIA does not feel it has the operational means to undertake task number 22, black market activities at this time. Further, that task number 11, Time magazine dissemination, would require operational facilities not now available. I accept indefinite deferral of task number 22 and scrubbing of task number 11 on this basis. The Department of State reaction to my effort to get the U.S. into priority actions towards our project's goals has been disappointing to me thus far. Apparently, my schedule of targets for special efforts is accepted only as it may fit into long-range, existing programs already underway. If this is the theory of our project, I believe that the project then becomes only a special reporting device and not a special U. 5. Effort to win the goal of helping the Kuansur capture their country from a gang of communists. Eyes only copies to 1. General Taylor. 2. Mr. Johnson. 3. Mr. Gilpatrick. 4. Mr. McComb. 5. Mr. Kennedy. 6. General Lemnitzer. 7. Chief of Operations.
Minutes of meeting of the Special Group on Mongoose, September 6, 1962. F. General Carter pointed out that reference to support of all Cuban exile groups, number 48, is impractical. The word was changed to selected. G. Mr. Martin cautioned that results of number 50, actions to be undertaken by other hemisphere governments, would not be expected overnight. H. General Carter urged that, in connection with number 22, submarine broadcasts, General Lansdale should be given more latitude in working up other deception possibilities. Mr. Bundy felt, on the other hand, that particularly because of the possible Cuban counter measures which had been outlined by Mr. Murrow, the group should look at other possibilities in some detail. I. General Carter felt that a determination should be made as to how far the U.S. is prepared to go in economic harassing actions. He emphasized that sabotage operations such as those under number 27 will not in themselves be especially effective in wrecking the Cuban economy. 4. The group then turned to a discussion of number 32, agricultural sabotage. General Carter emphasized the extreme sensitivity of any such operation and the disastrous results that would flow from something going wrong, particularly if there were obvious attribution to the U.S. He went on to say, however, that it would be possible to accomplish this purpose by methods more subtle than those indicated in the paper. He mentioned specifically the possibility of producing crop failures by the introduction of biological agents which would appear to be of natural origin. Mr. Bundy said that he had no worries about any such sabotage which could clearly be made to appear as the result of local Cuban disaffection or of a natural disaster, but that we must avoid external activities such as release of chemicals, etc., unless they could be completely covered up. 5. A suggestion was made that small explosives or incendiaries which could be distributed to Cubans should be infiltrated. General Carter explained that the problem is not one of such supplies, since they can be easily improvised, but rather that the people have shown no inclination to use such materials despite many exile claims to the contrary. 6. It was suggested that the matter of attacking and harassing of Soviet personnel within Cuba should be considered. 7. The Attorney General and Mr. Bundy said that no reprisals against exiles who undertake active operations on their own are contemplated. 8. It was suggested that the possibilities of counterfeiting be looked into further. 9. General Carter urged again that a decision be reached as to how much latitude would be allowed the operating elements of the government within broad policy lines. The chairman indicated that it would not be a simple matter to delegate responsibilities of this kind to any great degree.